You are listening to the Work-Life Eubiosis podcast with your host, Charleston Edwards. If this is your first time here, welcome. My goal is simple, to bring harmony and balance to this world, starting with the family. There is so much more to life than the 9 to 5, and this show is designed to bring you inspiration, motivation, and practical solutions to bring balance and joy back to your life. Work-life balance is not a myth, it's a choice. Themes on this show range widely between faith, family rhythms, work, and lifestyle philosophies. You will also hear burning ladder essays submitted by our community of friends and listeners who ditched the rat race, beat burnout to pursue a more balanced and purposeful life. My hope is that this show and the stories shared will provide encouragement, motivation, and will provide some ideas that will be valuable to you on your journey to work-life freedom. So let's dive into today's episode. The longtime great country singer, Toby Keith, passed away last month at the age of 62 after a battle with cancer. I ran across one of Toby's last interviews and I was deeply moved as the conversation touched on several topics that aren't typically elevated in the entertainment industry. Though the celebrity culture has many pitfalls, it's hard not to applaud when we notice some good qualities in our society's rich and famous. In summary, Toby's life was lived with no regrets and no should-have-beens. He was a singing cowboy who enamored millions upon millions with his gift of bringing life and the party to the arena with his lyrics. Here are 5 takeaways that I've taken from Toby's interview where he reflected on key milestones of his entire life. Number 1, don't let the word no stop you. Toby's rise to stardom in his late 20s was not easy. In fact, he had to display pure grit in the face of resistance. He had a calling on his life, the love for music, that he never let die. Even when record labels wouldn't give him the light of day, he kept singing. When facing the crossroads of quitting to chase another vocation, he pressed forward with music while taking on plumbing jobs to pay the bills. For those of us who are small business owners and entrepreneurs, this example of grit is something to learn from. We must continue to grow in our craft on hard days when everyone thinks we're crazy and when everyone says, no, you're not qualified. In a culture that celebrates credentials and certificates, don't let your calling be squashed by inner and outer opinions. If Toby had quit singing, apparently he had a gift of plumbing. As a person who desperately needed professional plumbers in my home this week to fix a few pipes and a broken toilet, there's a lot that we can learn from plumbers. Though the world celebrates singers, I would challenge there is a greater appreciation that should also go to our plumbers and other trades. The next principle is to be on the same page with your spouse. Toby's marriage was different in a sense because he spent a lot of time away from home and in an atmosphere that attracts groupies. This dynamic typically wrecks homes, but not Toby's. I have no idea if he was faithful, but he was married for 40 years and he publicly acknowledged the strength of his marriage. Maybe this marriage is a unicorn, but it took hearing more about their relationship to understand the principle that we can extract. Toby and his wife, Trisha, both understood and embraced that their lifestyle would be different. There would be a need to compromise, times when Toby would be gone a lot, and times when the family was on the road with him. The key was that they were on the same page for what they stood for and how they were going to execute their lifestyle. They didn't say it was easy, but they were secure in who they were and what they were called to do. But Toby gives all the credit to Trisha. Toby stated, "It takes a special kind of woman to hold down the fort, to be faithful, and be a big fan of what their husband is doing." Fort, faith, and fan. This statement should have us all questioning where we prioritize our forts, faith, and fans in our lives. How are we celebrating the work of our spouses? Are we on the same page of the family mission? To what lengths would we go to support the careers of our spouses? What does sacrifice look like? What does compromise look like? How are we taking care of our homes? This episode is brought to you by Own Your 5 to 9, an organization committed to freeing families of the rat race and burnout. Every organization has a leader, mission, and a set of values that drives the organization. But this is commonly missed in the most important organization in the world, the family. An organization has one mission for how it will impact the world. Why not the family? An organization goes into strategic planning to align its values, mission, and projects. Why not the family? Whose Home, a strategic planning guide for families, is a workbook and a tool needed in all households. Whose Home takes a strategic planning approach with 10 guided exercises to define your core family values, family mission, and tools to operationalize how your family does life together. If your family is facing big decisions, Whose Home is for you. If you're considering a career pivot, Whose Home is for you. If you desire more intentionality and harmony in your home, Whose Home is for you. Create a healthy culture, not a hustle culture, at home. Visit ownyour5to9.com to claim your copy today. The next application is to embrace every day like it's your last. Toby was comfortable with the changing seasons in his life, particularly his last season of battling cancer. He was grounded, rooted by the waters of life, his faith. Death was not something he didn't think about. He knew it was knocking on his door, a destiny he was aware of that would come sooner than he'd like. But death was not his final destination. And that hope that there is more after his life is why he remained calm and grounded and at peace in the midst of fighting cancer. Meanwhile, he kept writing and singing and sharing his gift with the world to the very end. In his own words and his popular song, he never let the old man in. The fourth application is to remain humble in winning and in losing. Toby loved to write. He realized that early on in his success, some of his songs were a bust. Yet, he kept writing, he kept singing, and he kept getting better. He found a flow to write good songs. He didn't get derailed by other shiny objects or other ways to change his style with the changing music industry. He stayed true to country. He stayed true to his way. He was winning through repetition over reputation. What we view as failure is actually a place of growth. When we don't immediately see fruit from our labor or goals, doesn't mean we're not winning. It may be just a season where our roots need to grow stronger. Discipline is the key to growth. In that season of growing roots, it may be dark, isolated, and maybe even painful. But this is how nature works. It's the seasonality of life, and it's so important to know these rhythms so that we can find strength in pain and the appropriate training grounds to bear good fruit in the appropriate season. The final application that I want to bring to you is to live fearlessly and faithfully. Toby stood for family, freedom, patriarchy, and hard work. But what we don't give him credit for is his fearlessness. He wasn't afraid of failure, and he wasn't afraid of professing his faith. He wasn't afraid to be a country singer, and he wasn't afraid of being a plumber. He was confident, and if there was one song that stood for this, it was "Should Have Been a Cowboy." Yes, this song was about the rejection of getting the girl, but the deeper meaning romanticizes the lifestyle of a cowboy. A cowboy explodes with charisma. They have a flair for danger, and they confidently own who they are. Have you ever met a cowboy without confidence? We can't all be rich and famous or cowboys, but we can all be fearless and faithful. It's the latter that brings true wealth that's fulfilling. Thank you for listening to the Work Life U by OSAS podcast, part of the Work Life resources created by Own Your 5 to 9. I hope that you have found encouragement and a few ideas to strengthen your journey to purpose, freedom, and balance. Have you overcome burnout and found a new way of life? Millions around the globe are still at the risk of burnout and losing it all, and your story may be the one that sparks not only a dream, but action. Visit ownyour5to9.com for more information and to submit your story. While you're there, join the Work Life U by OSAS newsletter and receive additional resources weekly right to your inbox. If you enjoy this podcast, take time to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Share it with a friend or a loved one. Remember, the most important organization in the world is the family. Let's do our part to strengthen it. Thank you for listening.